Good evening, friends in the media. I have an opening statement as usual. Let me read it, and after that, I shall take a few questions. After carefully reading the statement of the Finance Minister on the so-called stimulus package, I am reminded of the Hindi proverb, Khoda Pahad Nikla Chuha. Loosely translated, it means dig a mountain and find a mouse. Let me make it very clear at the outset. The grand announcement yesterday was no stimulus package to push economic growth. It was another sly attempt to dazzle the people with exaggerated numbers and lead them to believe that the government is hands-on and responsive to the needs of the people and the economy. It is also a candid confession that the earlier so-called 20 lakh crore rupee package was a massive failure. It was a failure because it was a hoax. Remember that yesterday we also got the news that the IIP, Index of Industrial Production, had contracted for the 6th month in a row, and retail inflation had surged to 7.34%. More worryingly, nearly all of the rise in CPI inflation was due to a steep rise in the prices of vegetables that has hurt the homemaker the most. The numbers claimed this time too are a hoax. The stimulus is not, I repeat, not of a value of rupees 73,000 crore as headlined by some newspapers. Nor is it of the value of rupees 1 lakh crore, another number that is being thrown at us. The fiscal impact of these announcements is estimated by analysts to be a mere 0.1% of GDP. Let me repeat that, 0.1% of GDP. I'm also amazed by the use of the phrase demand infusion. I wonder if such a phrase exists. The government is also trying to play the role of Maa-Baap when it tells government servants what amount, on what goods, and when they should spend their own money. Just as the BJP has been telling people what to eat, what to wear, what language to speak, who to love, who to marry, etc., it is now trying to control people on their spending preferences. This is another piece of retrograde interference in people's lives. Now to the merits of the three announcements. 1. The 10,000 crore rupee interest-free festival advance to government servants is not additional expenditure. It will be recovered in 10 monthly installments. It is like buying on equated monthly installments, that is EMI. 2. The 12,000 crore rupee offer to the states is not a grant, but a loan. All the big states put together will get only rupees 7,500 crore, which is a minuscule fraction of the capital expenditure of rupees 9 lakh crore budgeted by the states for 2020-21. It will make little difference. 3. The offer of a tax concession to 35 lakh central government employees on LTC is a pathetic attempt to induce them to spend twice that amount out of their own money to gain a small benefit on tax. The FM is also disincentivized encashing 10 days of leave by requiring that it must be spent as stipulated by the government in order to get the paltry tax benefit. If we assume that the value of the LTC fare is rupees 6,000 at the lowest and rupees 36,000 at the highest, the government employee must fulfill 7 conditions. A, must spend rupees 12,000 to rupees 72,000 out of her own money or savings. B, must buy only a non-food item. C, must buy items that have a GST rate greater than 12%. D, must buy only from a GST registered shop. E, must pay digitally, not in cash. F, must buy before 31st March 2021, that is within 5.5 months. H, must produce GST bills. If she fulfills all the 7 conditions, then a government employee can expect a tax benefit, mark my words, a tax benefit of rupees 300 to rupees 7,200. Let us see how many government employees will avail of the FM's generous gift. Let us also wait for the CNAG's audit report of the scheme after 2 to 3 years. The most deserving people who need the money desperately have once again been left in the cold. They are the bottom half of the families in India. Government stubbornly refuses to make a cash transfer to their accounts as recommended by dozens of economists and as demanded by the Congress and other political parties. I'm sure that they are watching the government's pitiful efforts to revive the economy that will register a degrowth, a negative growth of 10% in 2020-21. I'm prepared to take questions now.
Thank you, sir. The first request for a question has come from Rakesh Kapoorji. Rakesh Kapoor, please go ahead. Unmute yourself. Keep your question brief, please.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My question is that out of this so-called stimulus package, what will be the net cash outflow from the government coffers? Additional cash flow from the government coffers.
Several economists have estimated it at 0.1% of GDP.
Yes.
Now, the GDP is about 200 lakh crore. 0.1% is a very, very small amount. 0.1%, 1/10 of 1%.
Right. So that amounts to, out of this so-called 73,000 or 1 lakh crores of rupees, which is the government's scheme or package, that amounts to how much money? It amounts to only
About 20,000 crore, maybe about
30,000 crores. That's right.
That
Thank you, sir.
on how many people avail of the scheme. No?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kapoor Saab. I'll request the next question someone wants to ask. Siddharth from ANI. Please go ahead, Siddharth.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, my question to you is very simple. That yesterday, the whole country listened to the finance minister, and now what your people are saying. But as a layman who have, what is the time frame when he or she will be able to get his job back, when the economy will be in a better condition, and after seeing the measures the central government is doing, do you think that it is going to be a very good picture, a very better picture soon, or not?
Well, I wish you had asked this question yesterday to the finance minister. The right person to ask this question is the finance minister, and she should have answered it. Government is doing nothing to revive jobs. Government is not even filling their vacancies in government jobs. Just ask for the number of vacancies in government jobs, vacancies in public sector undertakings. Even they are not being filled. I don't think the government has any plan or any package or any scheme to bring back the jobs that were lost.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Please indicate.
Can I,
Rakesh Kapoorji, you again
can
want
I-
to ask? Yeah.
can I ask the second question? My question is that yesterday I also asked with Mr. That it shows that the government has the misguided priorities or misplaced priorities, because the section which is deprived of cash is now neglected, again neglected.
Well, I said so in my statement. The most deserving people have been neglected. The people are the bottom half of the families in this country. Those families, self-employed people, small businessmen, MSMEs, they have been completely neglected.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll move to the next one. Supriya Bhardosh from TV9 wants to ask a question. Supriya, please come in. Supriya,
Hello.
are you there? Yeah, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Mr. Chidambaram, sir, what do you have to say about the inflation rates? Because we are seeing that there is a rise in the retail inflation.
As I said, most of that is attributed to the rise in prices of vegetables. Partly it could be a seasonal factor, but I think it's also a factor of the supply chains being still broken or still bogged with lots of difficulties. Government must get down to brass tacks, look at what's happening on the ground. They must go to wholesale markets, retail markets, and talk to the wholesale merchants, the retail merchants, and find out why are prices rising. I don't think it's the reason is that there is a shortage of production of vegetables and fruit. I think the production is intact. It's just that the supply chain is not yet clear. It's blocked by a number of obstacles, I don't know what. And secondly, I think seasonal factors are also playing.
So what's your take on the farm bills also? Because now the farmers are saying, in the current situation, what to make of?
How many times have we to express ourselves on the farm bills? The proof of the pudding is what's happening in Punjab and Haryana. The farmers who produce the most paddy and most wheat for the Indian people, 70% of the production of wheat and paddy in Punjab and Haryana is procured. Those farmers are on the streets. Why? Ask them. Why does the government shy from asking the question, if we have done such great good, why are the most productive farmers of this country on the streets? I can understand some marginal farmer being on the street, but productive farmers of India, Punjab and Haryana farmers, are on the streets. Why? See, the farm bills do not repair the shortcomings in the current mandi system, regulated market system. So we have suggested in our manifesto the alternative. Alternative is to create thousands and thousands of farmers' markets in large villages and small towns, so that A farmer does not have to travel more than 3 or 4 kilometers to sell his paddy or produce or whatever. Instead of taking that path, the government has taken a retrograde path. In the name of creating a free market, it has weakened the only existing regulated market mechanism today. At least 6% of farmers sell their produce there, wheat and paddy. In fact, Mr. Sainath has calculated, if you take all produce, maybe about 20 to 25% of farmers sell in the regulated market. That is the only safety valve available today. Even that you're taking away and saying, I'm creating a free market. What is the free market? Who will make sure that the price paid in that so-called free market is the fair price or a remunerative price or not less than the MSP? And what happens to a dispute between the seller and the buyer? The buyer is a corporate or a big trader. The seller is a small farmer, 3 acres, 4 acres. And you drive him to a bureaucratic maze and say, take your dispute to a tahsildar. Anybody who has taken a dispute to a tahsildar knows what happens. You can't go to a civil court. Therefore, we say, what you have done is the remedy that you're proposing, the medicine that the government is proposing is worse than the disease. Yes, there are shortcomings in the regulated market system, but rectify them first. And we have shown a way how it can be rectified. Can we come back to the FM's package of yesterday? I've answered at great length on the farm bill.
Thank you, sir. We'll move to the next question. Sandeep Fukan from The Hindu wants to ask. We'll go to Mosmi after that. Sandeep, please come in.
Sir, though you laughed at the word demand infusion, would you not agree that at least the government seems to have taken cue from what all of you, the opposition parties, have been saying, and now the focus of the package is, demand to sort of generate demand instead of expanding credit opportunities? As in earlier, the package had focused on, giving credit, but here now they're actually trying to generate demand. The focus is on generating demand, something that you all have been saying from March.
If the FM had used the word generate demand or stimulate demand, she's used the phrase demand infusion. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a trained economist like she is. I've understood liquidity infusion. I've understood money infusion. I can't understand demand infusion. Maybe there is a phrase. I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. You generate demand, yes. You stimulate demand, yes, which is what we have been saying. You have not that all.
They are moving towards that direction, isn't it? I mean, now at least the focus is on creating or generating demand from the earlier package.
I have no problem if the goal is to generate demand. Will spending 0.1% of GDP generate demand? It's for you to decide. I don't think spending 0.1% of GDP will stimulate demand. You have to spend at least 10% of GDP. Some countries are spending up to 20% of GDP. All economists whom I respect and the world acknowledges as distinguished economists have said you must sharply step up spending. Even a couple of days ago, Jahangir Aziz has written a column. Step up expenditure sharply, not by 0.1%. This will not stimulate demand. This, as I said, is digging a mountain and finding a mouse.
Thank you, sir. That was very elaborate. I'll move to the next one. Mosmi, please come in.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Very good evening.
Good evening.
So talking about demand, I just wanted to ask a very straight question, considering that this is the festive season and the festive mood is set in, and the demand, consumer sentiments are usually boosted in the season, as one would think. And people would be looking up to the season to make some revenue and generate some income. Do you think that this will, in fact, the timing of it all might just boost the consumer sentiment for a while, at least till the festive season is on? And having said that, the other question is that do you think that the government has very little leg room as far as providing a stimulus package, or is concerned, considering the fact that it would directly impact the fiscal deficit?
Well, on answer to the first question is, government employees are not the only consumers. Government employees are about 35 million or something, given the number. They are not the only consumers, and then they are not the most deprived consumers. Their salaries have been protected all through the last 8-9 months. I have no objection if you want to give a benefit to the government servants. I have no objection at all. But having given the benefit in one hand, you have taken it away by the right hand. Or you give it by the right hand and taken it away by the left hand. Look at the conditions you've imposed. Why should I spend only on GST 12% rated goods in a registered GST shop? But why should I do that? Suppose I want to use that money to keep it for my paying the tuition fee of my child going to school or college. I'll keep it and pay the college fee next May or June. You want me to spend before 31st March and only on goods rated over 12%. Why? I mean, this is giving by the right hand and taking it away by the left. Read the 7 conditions. Why should a citizen of India be told, unless you fulfill all these conditions, you won't get the paltry tax benefit? This is the same piece as you should wear this, you shan't wear this. You should eat this, you shan't eat this. What is all this? Who's the government to tell me how I should spend my money? And to spend the money the government will give me, which is only an advance. LTC is anyway my entitlement. You're giving me that money, whatever, 6,000 rupees to 36,000 rupees. I must spend twice that amount from my pocket. Why? Why can't I spend only 6,000 to 36,000? Why should I spend twice that amount, 12,000 to 72,000 plus the LTC? What is all this? So I don't think this is the way to stimulate demand. Our way to stimulate demand is to cash transfer to the bottom half or 1/3 of the population, which has no money at all, which did not get salaries over the last 9 months, which was driven to penury and poverty. You saw the World Health Organization report. How many million people are going to be pushed into poverty? And the bulk of them are going to be in South Asia. What is South Asia? South Asia is largely India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. People have been pushed into poverty. Give them money and they will spend. You're not giving them money. You want to give it to government employees, okay, but don't then put restrictions on government employees. So I don't think this is the way to stimulate demand. There are ways to stimulate demand. Now, on the other question about leg room to spend, I mean, I can only point out to what the chairman of the Finance Commission said over a couple of interviews over the last 2-3 days. This is not the time to worry about the fiscal deficit. This is an exaggerated fear. This is a time to borrow and spend.
Thank you, sir.
Pranabji.
Sorry. So the next question is from Anando Bazar. Premanshu wants to ask, it's a related question. He asked, do you think there is fiscal space available for stimulus, as FM has said that she does not want to take risk of unsustainable debt burden and inflationary pressure?
Fiscal space has to be created. You have to be a creative finance minister. You have to be a creative government. Fiscal space has to be created. Are you seriously suggesting that the people who have suggested that we should borrow and spend, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, Dr. Arvind Subramanian, Dr. Arvind Panagriya, Dr. Jahangir Aziz, and 2 days ago, even the chairman of the Finance Commission, and conservative economists like Dr. C. Rangarajan, Dr. Govinda Rao, are you seriously saying that they have not considered the debt burden of India? They have not considered the problems that are worrying the finance minister? Having considered all that, they are recommending that you should borrow and spend, that you must create the fiscal space. And if I'm asked to choose whose argument I will accept, the finance ministers or the distinguished line of economists that I've just listed, I should certainly go by Dr. Rajan, Dr. Subramanian, Dr. Panagriya, Dr. Rangarajan, Dr. Aziz. I'll go with them.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Deccan Herald, and this one relates to development in the GST Council. Sagar Kulkarni wants to ask, do you think it is time that the GST Council invoke the dispute settlement mechanism as differences persist over payment of compensation to states?
I was told about a couple of hours ago that a member who attended the GST Council meeting yesterday, he told me that the states had raised the issue of a dispute resolution mechanism. They had raised setting up a group of ministers, and they had raised looking at options other than the two options that the government had given. Without answering any of their questions, the finance minister, I'm told, abruptly ended the meeting, rose and left. She didn't answer the demands made by the states. That's unfair. The finance minister indeed chairs the meeting, but she's obliged to wind up the meeting only after everybody is satisfied that the meeting has discussed everything that deserves to be discussed. You can't abruptly end the meeting and get up from your seat and walk away. I was astonished when I was told this. Of course, the GST Council is divided on this issue, but then debate it, come to a consensus. Ever since Mr. Yashwant Sinha set up this informal council and then it was formalized, Mr. Yashwant Sinha, myself, Mr. Arun Jaitley have all worked towards evolving a consensus.
Sorry, I'll take the last question, sir. Meenakshi from Sunmark. Meenakshi ji, please come in. Unmute kariye.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you have too much issue on the economic front, like you just discussed GST. And Mr. Amit Mitra given a good statement yesterday on the GST Council's meeting, and he is one of the very important member of the GST Council. So what is your future plan? Are you going to move any rally or anything, that on publicly people should come to know about all these things, or the fake news and all these things?
You see, I have great respect for Dr. Amit Mitra's views. I have not read his statement, but if he has described what happened at the meeting yesterday, that must be accurate. I was told by another participant at the meeting. See, these are highly technical issues. They can't be taken into a rally. But I think the states are exploring various options. We wanted to raise it in Parliament, but that was not available to us. That opportunity was not given to us. I think the states are exploring options. Kerala, Punjab are in the preliminary stages of exploring options. But what I advised the person who told me was, all right, you have raised three issues. The finance minister abruptly ended the meeting and rose and left. Let us give the finance minister a few days to respond to the issues that you raised. Let us see what the government's decision is. I would advise patience for a few days to await the government's decision on the issues raised by the finance ministers, and then I think the states will decide what they want to do.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Kerala Finance Minister Thomas Isaac said, Kerala's Finance Minister Thomas Isaac said, if the government goes for the forcibly impose that a state should take loan, then they will proceed for the Supreme Court.
I mean, that's a possible view. I have not examined the legal implications, but I'm sure Dr. Isaac has taken legal advice.
Thank you, sir. We have.
Is there any other question?
One more thing. If anybody is not there, so should I raise the thing that one scam is raised today, that PM Kishan Nidhi. There is a huge scam on that, and government is going to close this scheme.
You are referring to the scam in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu?
No, PM Kisan Nidhi scam in Pradesh, not only PM Kisan Nidhi scam in Uttar Pradesh, in many places in the Tamil Nadu also is there.
Tamil Nadu, it's a big scam. Thousands of people who are not qualified to receive that PM Kisan grant have received the money. They have recovered a part of the money and they've arrested a few people and cases have been registered. It is a scam. It's because you didn't prepare before you announced the scheme, and you were so keen to push 2,000 rupees into every farmer when you announced it, and just before the elections, and that is why the scam has occurred. See, the problem is not in the conception of the scheme.
Sir, government is taking back this scheme.
I don't know.
Sir, government is taking back this scheme.
I don't know, man. I have not read it. If it appears in the papers tomorrow, I'll read it.
Yeah.
I think, sir, we've come to the end of questions.
Just ask generally ask if anyone else has any other question.
There's no, is there someone wanting to ask another question? Rakesh Kapoorji, this is the third time. Okay, let's ask.
Yes, I'm taking liberty. Thank you. My question is that is out of suo motu. That is that in your column in Indian Express on Sunday you have used the phrase "the impunity triumphs over justice."
Yes.
And it emanates from the Gandhism. That the Gandhi described this situation in a democracy is the rule of anarchists. Anarchism prevails in such conditions. And Dr. Lohia described it as a murder of democracy. Do you mean that in Uttar Pradesh, the government has come to the stage where there is hardly any democracy or democratic system? That is my question.
I think you should ask the leaders who are functioning in Uttar Pradesh. At least as my part, I have carefully followed Ms. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's statements on the complete breakdown of law and order, the lack of safety for women, the excesses of the police. So that's my party's view, which is articulated by Ms. Priyanka Vadra Gandhi. I'm sure other parties have their views. Sitting in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, I can't really comment on the ground situation in Uttar Pradesh, but Pradesh politicians are pointing out to the breakdown of law and order. There must be some truth in what they're saying. And certainly the Hathras incident, the Hathras district incident, and the other incidents that have happened in that area point to a rapidly deteriorating situation. And as I said in my column, the focus is to shift away from the alleged assault and rape case. I'm using the word alleged assault and rape case of that minor 19-year-old girl, shift away from that into launching cases for inflaming communal passions for conspiracy to topple the government, and even a from Kerala has been arrested and charged with sedition. I mean, this is atrocious. I condemn it. My party condemns this. Focus on the main case, which is a case of alleged assault and rape of a 19-year-old girl in a village in Hathras district. That is the issue, not these invented issues of sedition, inflaming communal passion, conspiracy. These are invented fake issues. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I am privileged.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
I think the statement will be circulated to all of you by IICC Communication. Will circulate the opening statement to all of you, both in English and Hindi.
It has been circulated, sir, already.
Especially for the print media. So please use the statement and then you can report questions and answers. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.